yours, I'm a fool for your love.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side.
Alright you guys, so welcome to another client tutorial. In today's video, I am going to be starting off with skin prep. And I'm just going to apply some moisturizer all over her skin. I did go in with a toner to remove any leftover oils or makeup that may have been on her skin. I used the Glam Glow exfoliating toner. And then I use the Airbrush to moisturize, which is one of my go-to moisturizers. And then I'm applying an eye cream underneath her eyes just to make sure that that area is really hydrated and prepped as well. Do not forget the under eye area. That's a really important area. Moving on to brows, I am going to start off with the Benefit 24-Hour Brow Setter, which is one of my favorite brow gels. It really holds those hairs in place. And I am just going to comb her hairs upwards. I'm going for more of like a, I don't want to say bushy, but I guess you could say like bushy natural brow today. So I'm just starting off by combing her hairs upwards to help give me that shape that I'm looking for, and then I will go back to them later to fill them in with a pencil. Once I did that, I'm then going to underline the brow with the Tarte Shape Tape. I've actually fell back in love with this concealer. I didn't use it for a really long time. I would say probably well over a year. And now I'm back to using it. I really missed it. I needed a break from it though, because I felt like it was like the only concealer I used. But I'm using shade Light Sand. I'm underlining her brow, and then I'm going to apply that all over the lid, and that is going to be my eye primer. To blend out the eye primer, or the concealer rather, I'm going to be using my e.l.f. sponge. I really have been enjoying blending out my primers with a sponge. I feel like it gives a really seamless, smooth, flawless application because it absorbs any extra product that doesn't need to be on the eye to avoid any creasing or cakiness on the eye. Sometimes with the brush, I feel like it doesn't absorb any of that extra product and can kind of cake up. So the sponge really just gives a super smooth application. So if you've never tried applying your eye primer with a sponge, I definitely recommend it. And then I went in with a tiny little bit of translucent powder to set the crease area. That way, when I go in with my transition shades, they go on a little bit smoother. So to start off, I am using one of the bronzers from the Park Ave Princess Highlight and Contour palette from Tarte. I have been obsessed with this palette. I bought it on a whim and I really wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I've been obsessed with it. The powders are so creamy and blendable and definitely has been my go-to palette in terms of powder highlight and contour. Definitely recommend it. So I'm just taking one of the bronzers. I believe it was the lightest bronzer from that palette, and that is her transition shade. I felt like it was the perfect tone for her skin tone. So I applied that, and then we're going to go in with the shade Madagascar. I believe it's Madagascar from the Nubian 2 palette by Juvias Chleo. All of the shadows, by the way, in today's look are going to be from Juvias Chleo palettes. I don't think I've ever done a client tutorial where I used all Juvias Chleo. You guys know, if you're familiar with my channel, how much I love Juvias Chleo and how much I use them on myself. But I never really use their palettes on clients just because, I don't know, I just don't. Which now I feel like I definitely need to because I love the way this look turned out. So yeah, I love Juvias Chleo. I actually have a playlist of all Juvias Chleo tutorials that I will put on the screen and list down below if you're interested. But going in with a smaller brush, I'm now going to deepen up that crease. I'm just using two more neutral brown shades from the Masquerade mini palette. And I'm just going to start deepening up that crease after I applied that shade Madagascar. And then for the lid, I'm starting off with the Stila Liquid Shadow in Starlight, which is one of my favorite liquid shadows. It's like the most perfect light ivory champagne shade. It's beautiful on brides. And that is going to be my eye base for the shadows that we're going to be using. I'm going in with the lightest shade from the Warrior palette by Juvias Place. And again, love that shade. It's so, so beautiful. And that is going to be focused on the inner portion of her eye. And then once I get to the middle portion of her eye, I'm going to apply like a bronzy shade from the same Warrior palette, just to make sure everything's really blended and blends into those darker brown shades that we use on the outer corner. You'll see a lot throughout this tutorial that I definitely step back a lot to look at her straight on. And the reason why I do that is because I just want to make sure everything's looking symmetric and even. Definitely always make sure you kind of step back and take a look at your client to make sure everything's looking good and not just looking good from the eye that you're working on. Sometimes things look different when you look more straight on. So just always make sure you take a step back and look at your work. Moving on to eyeliner, I decided to do a nice winged eyeliner. I'm using the Inglot number 77, and I am just applying the wing, and then I take a pointed Q-tip with some micellar water on it just to sharpen up the edge of the wing. I always like doing this. It just makes the wing look more sharp and precise. And I'm just taking my time with this. Don't rush your winged eyeliner. Work section by section. Don't try to do it all in one smooth motion because you're most likely going to mess up. Just take it section by section. And then I always have my client, when I'm trying to get in the inner corner, open and look down so I could really get in between those lashes. You can see right there, because if their eyes are closed, sometimes you can't really get into that eye. So I always like to make sure I have them open and look down so I can really get in there. I'm then taking a pointed blending brush. I'm taking a darker brown and I'm just lightly smoking out that outer corner. Not too much, but I always like to do this. I feel like it just, I don't know, I like the way it makes the eyes look. So yeah, I'm just applying a little bit of a darker brown. I believe I used a brown from the Warrior palette. And then moving on to brows, I believe I'm using shade 2.5 from the Benefit Precisely My Brow Pencil. And I'm just very lightly filling in her brows. I didn't want to go overboard. I am filling in the front of her brow a little bit just to make it look a little bit more symmetric. And just because I like when the brow starts from the beginning of the eye, I just feel like it frames the face. So if the brow naturally doesn't start at the very beginning of the eye, I'll kind of draw in some little hairs there just when I'm filling them in. But yeah, you can see I didn't go overboard with the brows. Just a little bit filled it in because she had a really great brow shape and she had coarser brow hairs to begin with, so I didn't need to apply too much product. Then I applied some mascara and I went in with some lashes. I want to give a shout out to these lashes because I'm obsessed and I'm going to Walmart, I think today, to buy some more. So these are by LA Color, which I never use anything from LA Color. It's a really cheap drugstore brand. But these are their Faux Mink lashes. And I was so shocked by these lashes, you guys. They looked like real mink. They look, I mean, in my opinion, I think they look so beautiful on her, and they are such a pretty, like, dramatic bridal lash, and I just couldn't believe that they were Faux Mink. Like, they looked so real, and they were only, like, $3.50. Again, they're by LA Colors. I got them at Walmart. Go check your local Walmart and see if they have them because they were so good. I did go in with the Milk Hydro Grip Primer on the outer portion of her face, and then in the center of the face to control any oils because she said she did have combination skin, I applied the Rimmel Stay Matte Primer. Then for foundation, I mixed together the Face Atelier foundation, I believe in shade, I want to say it was shade 2, and then I took my Tehran Cream Foundation. I mixed in a little bit of that to add some coverage to the Face Atelier foundation. So if you have a client that you want, I mean, this girl had amazing skin. I think her skin was flawless. Like, she doesn't even really need foundation. But obviously, for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to do foundation and everything. But I wanted to add a little bit extra coverage because I was going for more of a glam look in today's video to the Face Atelier foundation. So anytime I want to add extra coverage to that foundation, because it is more of like a medium coverage, I just mix in a cream foundation, something that has more coverage, and it just works beautifully, the Face Atelier with a cream foundation. So I just mix it in a little bit of a Mayron foundation. And then to contour, I'm using the Huda Beauty Tantour in shade Fair just to warm up her skin. I'm not doing a super heavy contour. I didn't do like all of the lines and blend it out. I just kind of blended the contour as I went with that little dome brush, which is by Morphe, by the way. And I'm just lightly warming up her skin. So moving on to contouring her nose, I'm just using this little brush from the Jaclyn Hill Morphe collection, and I'm just going to apply that Tantour by Huda Beauty down the sides of her nose to slim it a little bit, and then I'm blending it out with this little dome brush. With nose contour, you want to be subtle with it. You don't want to be over the top. She didn't even need her nose contoured. I really don't contour all of my clients' noses. I do it when I have a little extra time and when I want the look to be a little bit more glam. But yeah, she honestly didn't even need it, but I did it anyway. And then I'm applying the Dose of Colors concealer. I think this is in shade 04. And I'm just applying that underneath her eyes, and I'm bringing it up the sides of her nose again to enhance that nose contour, kind of do some like reverse contouring, if that makes any sense. It just makes the appearance of the nose a little bit slimmer when you bring it up against the contour that you put on the nose. Bringing that down the center of the face, and then I'm going to blend that all out with my e.l.f. sponge. Since the sponge was a little bit too big to get into these inner corner areas and up against that lower lash line, I'm just taking this little brush just to blend out those areas that are hard to reach. And then I'm going to set the under eye first with the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Powder, the Airbrush Flawless Powder in shade 01 Fair. And I'm just adding a very light layer of that, and then I'm going to go in with my Cover FX translucent light, I think it's the illuminating setting powder, and I'm going to bake her T-zone and underneath the eyes with that, and down the nose as well. I'm just using the same Charlotte Tilbury powder that I used before, but in shade medium, to set the perimeter of her face. And then I'm going to dust away that baking powder with this big fluffy brush, and then I'm going to go in and bronze her skin, and I'm using the same Tarte palette that I mentioned before, and yeah, I'm just bronzing up her skin with this big fluffy brush again, and slightly contouring at the same time, but I wasn't being like super precise. If I really wanted to contour, I would go in with a much smaller brush and be a little bit more precise with my placement, but I just kind of wanted to what I call bronze tour. It's like bronzing and contouring at the same time. And then I'm taking a pink blush. I mix in a little bit of like a peachy color as well from my Morphe palette that I always use. I believe it's the 8W blush palette. And yeah, I'm just applying that on the apples of her cheeks. And then we're going to go in and highlight as well. And I ended up using the Juvias Chleo Loose highlighter in shade Cleo, and I forgot how beautiful this highlighter is. It always sits in my collection. I never really use it, but it's such a pretty color. Unfortunately, the camera and lighting wasn't really picking up the highlight like I wanted it to. But trust me, in person, it looked really beautiful. This highlighter doesn't enhance texture or anything like that. It's a really nice formula. So I'm just highlighting the tops of her cheekbones, above the brow, above the lip and the chin. But then for the nose, I went in with my Dior Backstage highlighter. Just because I don't like to use a loose highlighter on the nose. I feel like it can get a little messy and it's hard to be precise with it. So I just took a little blending brush and applied that highlighter from that Dior Backstage highlighting palette. And then I'm applying a nude liner on the waterline. You could totally do a black or brown if you really want to add some drama to this look, but I wanted to keep it a little bit softer. So I just applied a nude, and then I'm applying some browns to the lower lash line with this little definer brush. Then I'm just taking a little pencil brush with the lighter brown just to blend out that lower lash line and smoke it out a little bit. And then I'm going to highlight the inner corner with, I believe it was the same shade that I used on her lid, the first shade I used. And I'm just brightening up that inner corner. I love this little brush, by the way, for doing that. It's from the Jaclyn Hill Morphe collection. It's like the perfect little brush for underneath the brow and the inner corner. And then moving on to lips, I started off with a NYX lip liner. I didn't really like the shade, so I went in with MAC Strip Down Liner on top of that because I wanted more of like a cool tone brown. And I'm just lining her lips with that. We're going for more of like a peachy nude for today's look. And once I lined her lips, I then took a LORAC liquid lipstick. I do not remember the shade, but if I find it, I will link it down below, or at least list it down below. It was just like a really light nude shade. I got it in a set, like it came with like a bunch of different lipsticks by LORAC. But yeah, I'm just applying that on the lips. I always like to go in with a liquid lipstick and then a gloss on top. I feel like the lips just last a lot longer if you have a liquid lipstick as your base. So yeah, and then your client will have to touch up as much. And then I'm just taking the shade Enigma from the Face Atelier Lip Glaze, and that is just going to go on the center of her lips just to make her lips pop a little bit more. Applying some mascara. Gonna set her face with the Smashbox Photo Ready primer spray, no, setting spray. And that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Comment down below what other kinds of looks you want to see on clients. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and like this video. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.